After California wildfires, what survivors say they gained from loss. The sorrow surges at unexpected moments. Evelyn Anderson. The thoughts soon receded, a sign of progress from the first year after the fire, when the distress felt chronic, draining her spirit day after endless day. As more time passed, she makes an effort to slow down in the evenings after work to savor the quiet hours with her husband. The already close what's important has changed a lot, says Ms. Anderson, the interim co-principal of a French-American charter school in Santa Rosa. And the sense that her evolving perspective illustrates a behavioral health theory called post-traumatic growth. The concept the process of healing from psychological trauma varies by individual, and the arc of recovery can prove long, uneven, and at times, profoundly discouraging. Yet there are all number of positive things that can happen as people recover from disaster, says Drive North, who has studied the effects of trauma on survivors of Hurricane Katrina and the September 11 terrorist attacks. Those can be things. Next week will mark 18 months since the Tubbs fire tore through Northern California swine country, claiming 22 lives and razing more than 5,300 homes in and around Sonoma County, including the Andersons' house in Santa Rosa. The fire was one of several in fall 2017 that forced mass evacuations in the region, and thousands of people still lack permanent housing. As they attempt to Ms. Anderson and her husband, Keith Anderson, an electrical engineer, moved into a rental house after the Tubbs fire. The couple has there's almost a sense of freedom now, she says. We've realized that time and perspective. The Tubbs fire ranks as the second most destructive blaze in state history, behind the wildfire that wiped out much of Paradise. The sluggish pace, the demand for mental health services offers one measure of the trauma caused by the fires 2 years ago. A disaster Wendy Wheelwright, the program's project manager, supervises 36 counselors who traverse the county to aid fire survivors coping with what she calls the disaster after the disaster. The phrase refers to many displaced homeowners have learned that the San Francisco Bay Area's exploding housing costs will prevent them from building a similar home on the same property. Those who opt to stay, the choices can sharpen the despair of residents as they languish between an irretrievable past and an unsettled present. It's not just the Tubbs fire reduced to ashes the Santa Rosa home where Georgina and John Logue had lived since 1984. One of their neighbors, the retired couple's insurance covered only 70% of their losses. They bought a smaller. Losing our house was almost like a death, Ms. Logue says. The first year was. Recent research into the resilience of crisis survivors has expanded to the realm of post-traumatic growth. The theory's broad, a crucial aspect of that internal change involves the degree of hardship survivors confront as they seek to reclaim their lives. One study found behavioral health researchers emphasize that post-traumatic growth generally occurs only after people resurface from a wrenching crisis and make peace with their fate. It's hard for good. Ms. Logue sought solace from her faith and family, including 5 grandchildren. In recent months, I take more things in stride now, she says. It's just more of living with purpose. Madonna Day had lived in her home for 49 years when she fled the Tubbs fire. She returned to her visceral connection to the pastoral, Edwardian-style retreat, built in 1908, spans memories of her 2 late husbands, the 3 children she raised, and the small dairy farm she ran to produce goat cheese. Ms. Day admits her anguish quickened her temper. She scoffed at she moved into another rental home more to her liking earlier this year, and with stubborn persistence and Ms. Clark's patient help, she has pursued plans to rebuild. Mother and daughter, I lost everything, she says. But I've realized I have a very upbeat feeling when I am with them because I am trying to raise their spirits. That feels good. Studies suggest that people who seek out contact with family, friends, and neighbors after a disaster show higher potential for post-traumatic growth. An analysis of Samuel Bernie, a psychotherapist who provides individual and group counseling to fire survivors in Santa Rosa, describes creating and repairing social connections as essential to emotional recovery in a disaster's aftermath. With a big wildfire, it's basically like a refugee crisis, he says. People are dislocated. Evelyn Anderson escaped her home with little more than her purse and a work laptop. She soon began it. Early on, they shared stories of evacuation chaos, swapped insurance tips, and vented about FEMA. At a meeting 2 weeks, being part of a group of fire survivors does provide strength, Ms. Anderson says. There's a level of she never wanted to endure the trauma that the fire inflicted. She intends to I have more of a sense of how adrift one can be without their home, and that's given me more of an appreciation of what it means to be living with purpose. This article was written by Martin Cuzfrom and was legally licensed through the Publisher Network. Please direct all
Raindrop, drip, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.